I want you to imagine this morning that you received two invitations. One invitation is to a group or a party. You're the only one invited from your family, and you don't know anybody there. All right, fun, right? And then the other invitation is from all your favorite people. I'm in that group. And it's not that funny. No. And so all your favorite people are going to be there. Which one would you answer, oh, I'd be delighted to go? I think it would be fairly obvious, because we all tend to delight more in what we know and in who we know. And this morning, I want to start by sharing just 2 or 3 verses, common ones. 1 John 4, 7 and 8. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. 1 John 4:19. We love because he first loved us. It all starts with God. And then finally, Psalm 149:4. For the Lord takes delight in his people. He crowns the humble with victory. Now, I don't know if you ever imagined, but you know that the Lord takes delight in you. He takes delight in you. He knows you, and he takes delight in what and who he knows. And sometimes that's hard to imagine. You know, like, God, if you knew me, I'm kind of a scumbucket inside. You know, it's like God delights in me. And how do we approach someone who delights in me? It's kind of like Dorothy and her crew going into the Wizard of Oz, you know, scary, trembling. That is an aspect of God, but he delights in us. Just think what it would do in your heart and mind if it's soaked in that God is happy to see us. He's delighted. I'm so glad you're here. Even with all your shortcomings, and I won't point yours out this morning, okay? He loves you. He delights in you. He sees value in you and worth in you. And so it's so natural to think, well, God could, if he really knew me, God could never take delight in me. I shared this little statement a while back, says, Jesus knows me, this I love. He knows me down to my core, and he loves me. See, the irony to me is, the closer I get to God, the more aware I am of my shortcomings. And the closer I get to God, the more aware I am of how deeply he loves me. He takes delight in us. Parents, remember when your kids were little, how much you used to delight in them? And then they became teenagers, okay? But parents, if you're in that stage, when you have grandkids, you delight in your grandkids twice as much as you did your own kids. It's great. But you delight in your children, your grandchildren, with all their imperfections. You love them. You delight in them. And you want them to grow up so that they can wisely point out your imperfections when they get older. So God delights in us. Second point, we are told to delight in him. One of my favorite verses for 20, 30 years, I can't remember it, just kidding. Psalm 37:4. Take delight in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. Now, the early Dean Life version, when I first read that, is take delight in the Lord, and he'll give Dean whatever he wants. You know that new car that I think is so cool? Mine. But that's not what that means, I've learned. That word delight there, I Googled it. You know, that's the master of information there. And there are 834 synonyms for delight. I only have time to read 300 this morning. But the word delight means to take joy in, look forward to, take pleasure in, find very satisfying and joy. We can understandably, rightfully delight in many things in life. Nature. We all have hobbies that we delight in. Once a month, when we're here on Tuesdays, I see the ladies and they're stitching, quilting. They're delighting in being with each other. They're delighting in doing that. And I know for a fact that will never be me. And that's okay. They delight in that. Other people delight in fishing, hunting, or sports, or exercise, being with loved ones, friends, reading. I delight in being alone. I won't point out any of the introverts in the balcony, by the way, who delight in being alone. Maybe it's a good movie you delight in. The list can go on and on and on. We can delight in many things. But there's a difference between a chore and a delight. Often when our kids were young, they had to go clean their room or do they had one of the dad sayings, "Dad, do I have to?" "No, you don't have to. You get to." You get to, buddy. No. There's a difference between a chore, something you have to do, and a delight, something you get to do. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we look at our relationship with God as a chore. The things I do for God are a chore. I have to do, I have to do. When if we delighted in him, maybe it would be, I get to. How can I not? So that take delight in the Lord verse came to mean something different to me after a while. Take delight in the Lord, and as you do, over time, your desires will become like his desires. You will tend to and begin to value what he values, and he will give you those desires. Psalm 43:4 says, "Then I will go to the altar of God, to God, my joy, my delight." There's that word again. "I will praise you with the lyre, O God, my God." We delight in a relationship with God. Sometimes God brings people into our lives that are only there for a short time, and we get to see him again after the years, and we're just delighted to go see him. We anticipate going to see him. Maybe it could be the same way whenever you have your time with God, you anticipate it with joy. Or I got to get it out of the way, I can check it off, I'm done for the day. So God delights in us. He knows us and delights in us. We delight in him. Lastly, now don't get any hopes up on this lastly part. We delight in his word. And Psalm 1 is a description of the person that delights in his word. And it starts out with, "Blessed are those," and there's that word bless. You know, there's such a misunderstanding, I think, of that word blessed. You know, you hear pastors go, "How many of you want to be blessed out there?" And you're going, "I want to be blessed. I want to be blessed." All right. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who are peacemakers, getting in between two people who aren't getting along to bring them back together. Blessed are those who are persecuted. How many still want to be blessed? The word blessed in Psalm 1 means happy, a heightened state of happiness or joy. A way of putting that would be, how happy are those? So he says, how happy or blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. But, now anytime that's there, there's a contrast coming. So first, see, it's interesting to me that one of the characteristics of being blessed is what you don't do and who you don't hang around with. Teenagers are some in this room. You'll find that your parents take note of who you hang around with. Because sometimes when you hang around with certain people, you're kind of a jerk. And your parents notice that. And sometimes when you hang around with other people, you're really a nice person. And they go, who is this? You know, they're concerned about who you hang around with. Because who you hang around with impacts your life. Even as adults, that's true. So, Psalm 1 starts out saying, blessed are those, happy are those, how happy are those who don't hang around with the wrong people or go do what they do. So, it goes on though. You could say, how happy are those whose delight, there's that word again, is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. God delights in us because he knows us. We delight in him. We are to delight in his word. So, is your time with God a chore or a delight? And some of you are going, well, if I had a time with God, I'd be able to answer that question. Some of you got it. And anyway, sometimes it's in between there, and it's a discipline that you've built into your life. And then every day it's not oh boy, I get to go read the Bible. It's just something you do. And it's kind of like exercise. I don't always feel like I want to exercise. When I'm exercising, I don't always feel, oh joy, this is fun. When I'm done exercising, man, I'm glad I did that. Sometimes time with God is like that. Sometimes he speaks to you through his word in ways, you read one verse, you go, I've read that verse 50 times in my life, and boom, I never saw that before. I thought that maybe part of delight is the anticipation of the event or reading. David wrote most of the Psalms, and Psalm 119 is the longest chapter in the Bible. And 10 times in there, David uses the word delight. I delight in his commands, his decrees, his word. And David was called a man after God's own heart. And David had some major screw-ups in his life, and yet was a man after God's own heart who loved his word. So a blessed person is one who delights and meditates. Meditates means thinks about a lot. Okay? It's kind of like worry and anxiety in reverse. When you're worrying or anxious about something, I'm thinking about it. Don't think about it. I'm not trying to think about it. I'm not going to think about it. But the whole time I'm thinking about it. You're not even trying, and you're thinking about it all the time. Meditation is more a deliberate think about this versus that. Sometimes we get mixed up in our idea of what being blessed is. Sometimes we think, okay, God, you do something for me, you bless me, then I will. Lord, you haven't answered this prayer for me, so I'm going to pull back. See, the thing is, Jesus could not have proved his love any more, any greater for you than on the cross. He could not have declared his love in any greater way than that. So the fact that he loves you has already been declared, over, done with. He can't love you or me anymore. It says it all. So, how happy are those whose delight is in the law of the Lord and who meditates on his law day and night? And you know what those people are like? A tree. Isn't that exciting? A tree. Interesting fact for you, I know you'll all take this home with you, but in 2016, there were 14.7 billion trees in Minnesota. That's a lot of trees. I know it's true because I got it off the internet. But the blessed person who delights in his law and meditates, he is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Like a tree. Have you ever planted a tree and then the next week go, man, is that tree grown? I haven't either. It takes a long time. It's just like we had the markings on a wall at home in a closet where our 4 kids, would take turns every now and then, and I'd measure how much they've grown, and I'd write their name. And our daughter, Anna, didn't grow much. She still hasn't. So every now and then, when it was her turn to stand there, I'd put the ruler like this, and then I'd tilt it up just a hair. She never knew it or saw it, but she always grew 1/4 of an inch, no matter what happened. So she's watching this. She might be heartbroken now. Trees take time. They are slow. There's a picture I have in our yard. That tree there was planted in 1988 or 89. I think 89. That's the house I grew up in. And my dad planted that 6 months before he died. So that's Dad's tree. When our son Stephen was 3 or 4 years old, I may have shared this story once, we had moved back from Marquette, lived in the house. My mom was living there. And Stephen found a hatchet. And he proudly came in and he said, I chopped a tree down. You what? So that is the tree, which was this high, that Stephen chopped down. 36 years later. And soon it's going to turn beautiful colors, much to our joy and dismay as we know what's coming. Trees are slow. Then there's another tree. We planted this tree in our front yard a year ago in honor of my mom. So this is Mom's tree, and we're protecting it. And I honestly can't, I know it's grown. I can't tell you how much it's grown. I haven't checked how much it's grown. But also, that tree is growing really slow, because that's what trees do. The psalmist here said the tree yields its fruit in season. Now, this, you know that I shared with you, Mary Jo and I, back in March and April, we walked the Camino de Santiago in Spain, which is a 500-mile walk. And when we walked, we went past vineyards. And one vineyard, if we can have the next picture there. Okay. Isn't that beautiful? That everywhere we went, that is what the vines, if that's what you call them, the short little gnarly tree trunks, that is what they look like in March and in April. We walked almost all the way through Spain, and that's all we saw, those gnarly looking things. And if you were to take a picture of what those look like now, it would look like this. Next picture. Now, just so you know, I'm not the type of person that takes a picture off the internet. I got these pictures live from Deb and Tom Foucault. They're walking the Camino right now in a different season. And so you'll see the next picture. That's a close-up of the grapes. And you think, oh man, Foucaults are so lucky. Tom is so special to be there. Well, see, I know Tom, and he's not that special, okay? If he's watching on his hotel bed, sorry, Tom. If he was here, I would say the same thing. They are fortunate enough to be there in the right season. We were in a different season. We weren't the wrong season. It was just the season. And sometimes we look at people's lives and we see the fruit and go, oh, they're so lucky. Everything goes okay for them. But God has seasons. In another week or two, I'm going out west again, western Minnesota, and I drive harvest for the sugar beet harvest, and it's my taste of eternity every year. But it's a very predictable season. There's planting, there's summer, rain and sun and growth, and then there's harvest. You can always predict it within probably days of when the harvest starts. Often in life, we look at the grapes and go, oh, they're so lucky they get the grapes. Me, I'm this gnarly looking, I don't know what you call it. I feel like my life is right now like that gnarly branch. I want the grapes. Here's one thing I've learned. You know, we're told, encourage, whatever, blessed is the person who delights in his word and meditates. How much control, if you want to use that word, do you have over your delighting in his word and your meditating on it? Whether you right now are really a gnarly looking thing in your life, whether you are the most purple bunch of grapes, you still have total control over delighting in him and his word and meditating. The frustrating thing, if you want to call it that, the faith thing, I'm not sure what word, but in the harvest, when I go out, I know what I'm in for. I don't anticipate it with joy. But I know it will come to an end. In God's economy or in God's seasons, you delight, you meditate, and in his time, he will take care of the fruit. We don't get a choice in that. We entrust our lives to the master pruner. If you go to John 15, he prunes. Why? He's not a sicko. He doesn't want to hurt us. He prunes in order that we might be more fruitful. I want the fruit, but I don't want the process. I don't know about you, but you can't have one without the other. Nothing happens instantly. Nothing. In Galatians 5, it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, faithfulness. All those are slow-working things that happen over time. So what do you delight in life? We can say we delight in one thing because after all, we're in church. We're supposed to say the right thing, right? But how we use our time often is a great indicator of what we delight in. See, what we delight in affects what you do. What you delight in affects what you don't do. So this morning, what do we delight in? No matter if you're a gnarly branch, or if you got all the green but no fruit yet, or if you're a full bunch. Being a full bunch is pretty fun for a while. But you know what they do? They pick your fruit. They're so rude. And then they take those grapes and they squish it and make wine out of it and start the whole process all over again. What can we do? Keep delighting in God and meditating on His Word. See, you won't delight in someone you don't know. It will be hard to delight in God if you don't know Him. If you don't know Him as someone who deeply loves you. When you understand how much He loves you, then what He says might mean something more to you. And then delight in His Word. Here's one thing that I really found helps in delighting in His Word. I want to show you. This is really tricky. Everyone watch. Here's what you got to do to delight in His Word. You got to open the book. I can't delight for you. You can't delight for me. But there's something when we read it. Psalms is a book about all the highs and lows David and the other writers had in their relationship with God. They were ticked at him. God, you left me. God, you're awesome, God. The book of Proverbs, practical advice for living out life. The Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, are all stories of the life of Jesus and the things He taught. You won't delight in His Word unless you open the book. I'm sorry I'm old school, but I think it's better to open the book than to open the phone. Okay? Take it with you want, but I'm right. And no matter what, God's Word is God's Word. And this morning, whether you felt disappointed in God, your life is gnarly, or there's a fruit, my prayer is that we'd once again realize how much He loves us and delights in us. And as a result, we might delight in Him and have a renewed delight in His Word.